Hello everyone, my name is Demik Michael John Hoamon Siagian, and today I'm going to show you my presentation about narrative text. First of all, what is narrative text? Narrative text is a story with complication or problematic events, and it tries to find the resolution to solve the problems. An important part of the narrative text is the narrative mode, the set of methods used to communicate the narrative through a process of narration. Narrative texts are generally imaginative, aka not real, or in the form of imagination of the author. What is the purpose of narrative text? The social function of narrative text is to entertain the audience or readers. Therefore, this type of text is suitable for young children, teenagers, and adults. The purpose of narrative text is the same as recount text. However, narrative text is an imaginary story, while recount text is a real story. Now, I'm going to explain to you the difference between narrative text and descriptive text. The first one is the form of storytelling. In narrative text, the story is presented sequentially from one incident to another, so as to form a unified story. Meanwhile, descriptive text focuses more on describing an object in detail. The second one is the model of storytelling. Narrative text always tells about the topic that is carried out by main characters with other various characters. Therefore, narrative text always has conflicts or causal events. This is certainly different from descriptive text, which tends to be more structured and detailed in explaining something. The third one is the characteristic description. In narrative text, the writer will write a complete story with a sequence of events. Because it is fictitious, the characteristic that will appear may be explicit or implicit, depending on the author's point of view. Different from descriptive text, which describes an object in detail, which it will contain many adjectives. The fourth one is the main point of the text. Apart from entertaining the reader, another purpose of narrative text is for reader to gain new knowledge, benefits, or lessons. Meanwhile, descriptive text is more intended for readers to imagine clearly about the object described by the author. Characteristic of narrative text. The first one, narrative text tells a story that has happened in the past. Second one, usually narrative texts are stories that are popular among the general public, such as the story of the mouse, deer, and crocodile, the rabbit and turtle, etc. Third one, narrative text is often divided into several sequels, both simple and complex, which means there are several narrative texts where the story is made continuously or continuously between one part and another. And then the last one, as previously explained, one of the most striking features of narrative text is that it aims to entertain the reader. In addition, there is also another goal, which is to share experience with the audience. Now I'm going to explain the generic structure of narrative text. The first one is orientation. Set the scene where and the story happened and introduce the participants of the story, and then who and what is invoked in the story. And then the second one is complication. It tells the beginning of the problem which leads to the crisis or climax of the main participant. And then the third one, resolution. The problem or the crisis is resolved either in a happy ending or in a sad, tragic end. And then the last one is coda. This is a closing remark to the story and it is optional. It consists of moral lesson, advice, or teaching from the writer. And now I'm going to show you some types of narrative text. The first one is horror. Horror text is a story that contains scary stories, such as ghosts and other astral creatures that are much loved by the public. The second one is fable. In literature, a fable is a short fictional story that has a moral or teach a lesson. Fables use humanized animals, objects, or parts of nature as a main character. and are therefore considered to be subgenre of fantasy. The third one is personal experience. Another type of narrative text is personal experience or personal experience of the author. In this type of text, the writer can pour what he has experienced into an interesting story that can be enjoyed by the others. Fourth one is fairy tale. In short, a fairy tale is a tale with a fantasy or another story genre. Fairy tales are usually in the form of folk tales or children's stories, whose stories are enveloped in magic. Second one is folklore. About the same as fairy tale, folktale or folklore is a lore that is passed down from generation to generation. In addition, this folktale is usually spread by word of mouth, so that it will be passed down from generation to generation until it becomes part of the community tradition. Third one is legend. Legend is a legendary story that comes from a combination of fairy tale and folklore. A legend is a folk tale that many people consider real because it has shared content in it. Generally, legends tell about how the origin of a place can be formed. The seventh one is myth. Actually, this type of narrative text is not much different from folk tales. However, the difference is that sometimes myths can also be found in today's life. Usually people assume that mythical story really happened. The eighth one is science fiction. Science fiction, commonly abbreviated as sci-fi, is a story about science fiction. This type of text usually deals with imaginative and future concepts using advanced science and technology. And then the last one is romance. Romance or love story is a narrative text which contains the love struggle of the main characters. And finally, these are the narrative text examples that you can read. The first one is The Boy Who Cried Wolf. Second one is Pinocchio. And then the last one is The Lord of the Rings. Thank you for listening. God bless.